Hello and welcome to Wales, Africa and the World. My name is Peter Gilbey and in today's episode I'm joined by Millie Belding, Communications and Community Officer at Fairtrade Wales. I'm also being joined by Ojelade, Diaspora and Inclusion Officer at Cymru Africa. Today we're going to be talking about Fairtrade Wales and the wider Fairtrade movement. Welcome listeners, and hello Millie, and welcome back Ore. Millie, could you please introduce yourself and Fairtrade Wales?
Hi there, I'm Millie Belding, I'm from West Wales and I've been with Fairtrade Wales for just over a year and a half now. And at Fairtrade Wales, we support, grow and promote the fair trade movement in Wales, which we've been doing since 2009. So our vision is for an equal world that is trading fairly, and our mission is to be a catalyst for that change in Wales. So we do this by supporting our communities, helping to shape policy, and creating global connections that support ethical and sustainable trade.
In terms of your role specifically in Fairtrade Wales, what does it involve? What do you do sort of day to day?
So day to day, I'm really actively involved with our communities. We've got over 25 fair trade communities all over Wales, and also there are 8 fair trade retailers, over 50 schools, 7 places of worship, as well as a growing number of fair trade universities. So my role is basically around helping support these communities with whatever resources or any needs they may have generally to help promote fair trade in Wales. So one of our really active communities includes the Fair Trade in Football campaign, which is run by a woman called Sharon based in Pembrokeshire. And she has helped to organise multiple junior football festivals across Wales for primary school children. And she helps do this by using Bala Sport fair trade footballs in these games. And these footballs help to guarantee a fair wage for the people who've made them, as well as many other fantastic things such as safe working conditions, no forced or child labour, and with the protection of workers' rights, as well as using environmentally safe practice in their production.
You talked about all the different types of fair trade groups, like faith groups or businesses or universities, churches. What do you think motivates all these different volunteers to take action?
Within these communities, there's always that growing passion for fair trade, and it's been really active in Wales since about 2008. We see that these communities are really influenced by producer stories that the Fair Trade Foundation often feed through their campaigns that they do online and in person. These incredible stories are so effective in terms of sharing real life stories with how fair trade helps improve their lives and their working conditions. I think this is a real big point for these communities across Wales, seeing the power of these small choices and promoting information on fair trade as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and it shows the importance of that personal connection when you're telling these stories or trying to promote global solidarity. I was thinking about Ore's work with diaspora. How influential are diaspora communities in Wales in the fair trade movement, do you think, Millie?
Really active, and it's really fantastic to see ongoing support all over Wales and across the world. Having attended events like the International Fair Trade Towns Conference in Edinburgh, where there was so many communities from all over the world, and hearing how they're helping to promote fair trade in their own countries has been incredibly moving.
Sort of taking a step back then, and you mentioned that Fair Trade Towns Conference in Edinburgh. The fair trade movement more generally has been around since, I think, the 1940s and 50s. Everyone will be well aware that there are some intense issues facing the people of Wales and communities across the rest of the world right now. Like inflation is driving a cost of living crisis, and consumers may be prioritizing products with the lowest price tag. What would you say to people who may answer the calls and campaigns of fair trade by saying, well, fair trade is something nice to have, but it's not a must have, particularly when you've got these pressures?
I think that's a great question, and is often something we do get asked in terms of, is it a more luxurious product? Because, of course, you mentioned cost of living, so many other factors that face everybody every day. And I think it's always amazing to remember the stories behind the products and thinking about that extra level of, you're not just buying a product, you're helping to support so much more. And quite often as well, when you're faced with options in the supermarket, at least from what I've noticed, there's not always a huge difference in those prices. So it can sometimes be a really small swap, and might even be a lower cost option in some cases as well. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing going forward, is to notice the prices and really make that extra effort in being aware of what you are buying. We launched a Beaufort poll last year, and we found that 74% of people in Wales said that buying from ethical producers is becoming more important to them, and that 64% said that they actively chose to buy from ethical producers when they could, which is up from 57% the year before. So there is a call for it. People are passionate and do want to make these choices. The evidence is there, and it's about maintaining that awareness and spreading awareness of fair trade and the fair trade premium.
And so on that fair trade premium, I think a lot of people understand that fair trade products generally get a fair price for the consumers and producers, but the fair trade premium is different, isn't it? What is that, and what is it used for?
Yeah, so the fair trade premium is something that goes directly towards producers and farmers. And this is an extra bit of money that goes directly into helping community projects, which are chosen by the producer or producers or the farmers themselves. So this can actually go towards initiatives such as schools, building better healthcare systems, or even funding better equipment for their farms and things like that. So it's a really powerful and really important initiative.
Ore, I was wondering, you work a lot with African diaspora communities in Wales. How do they factor into the fair trade movement that Millie is supporting?
I think looking at it, a lot of diasporas, African diasporas here in Wales also serve like business owners. So they kind of import products they bring from maybe their home countries. Could it be jewelries? Could it be fabrics? So looking at the ethical processes in which fair trade stands for, they're able to also highlight the stories back home to ensure that they are not exploited. So they serve as a knowledgeable tool to enlighten other people back in any African countries to know that they're ethical people who are ensuring that they get fair pay and good pay for what they're doing. Well, I also have a question for Millie. So she mentioned earlier about like telling the stories of how the products have been made, the story behind the production of the production of the materials. I wanted to ask: is there a way where the farmers, or are they aware of the process fair trade is? And bringing it back to Wales, do you see if there's a correlation to educate people about the impact of involving themselves in fair trade products? And with the farmers, are they aware of like the principles behind it, or they just know they're getting better wages?
So a really great benefit that also comes within fair trade products is giving farmers a voice and a platform. So farmers will have cooperatives and workers' committees, and this is even a platform for women to take an active and equal role in decision making. So there is that awareness of what is going on, and there is actually control within that as well. As I mentioned, with the fair trade premium, they are able to decide themselves what they think this premium would best fund within their communities. And I think that's a really powerful stance in terms of giving the start of the supply chain that opportunity. And a fantastic example would be would be Jennifer's Coffee. The coffee is named after Jennifer Zambazi, who is a vice chair of the Cooperative of Farmers. And these people work together on the slopes of Mount Elgon in Uganda to produce their delicious fair trade coffee. So it's really, really amazing to see the power of these cooperatives and having these active voices within the role as well.
Millie, later on this year, Fair Trade Fortnight will be happening. When is it and what is it?
So every year the Fair Trade Foundation launches a campaign called Fair Trade Fortnight, and this year this is taking place from the 21st of September until the 4th of October. This year they will be focusing on fair pay as their theme, and they'll be putting a focus on the people in supply chains that don't earn enough to support their families and plan for their futures. And this petition is calling for a new law that makes sure that businesses are held responsible for unfair pay and exploitation within their supply chains. We all know that too many global businesses benefit from low pay and unsafe working conditions. And this would be a rule in place that would require every company to take full responsibility for the people who grow and make these products, and ensuring that fair pay is available to everybody involved.
On that petition, do you know when it closes? How might someone find it and sign it if they support it?
So the petition that the Fair Trade Foundation have is still active on their website and can be found under their campaign section on their website. It is still open until the end of the year, I believe. And this petition has actually nearly reached 100,000 signatures, which is just fantastic.
I was wondering, this petition is asking for a change in the law here in the UK. What difference do you think a law change like that would have practically for businesses here in the UK, but also for the producers in other countries?
I think this petition would have a massive effect because it's very frequent in everyday choices or everyday purchases that we don't often think about where that product even comes from. We sort of fall into these routines of just going to the supermarket, picking something up and really not considering where it's come from, who's made it, and whether it was actually made ethically. I think it's a really crucial thing to hold companies responsible for any of these issues that are involved within their supply chains. So much is left unsaid and untouched on that we don't know is actually happening behind closed doors and behind these supermarkets and behind all of these organizations.
Yeah.
And it would be a fantastic way to, as I said, hold these organizations accountable and really know what is going on behind our food that is on our shelves.
Absolutely. And what are Fair Trade Wales's plans for Fair Trade Fortnight later this year?
In September this year, we hope to gather all MSs for an event at the Senedd to educate new MSs as well as touch on fair trade with older MSs that have been around, on the importance of fair trade and this petition by the Fair Trade Foundation, because it might be an area that some MSs haven't touched on before, and we'd really like to continue awareness on fair trade within the Senedd.
On the topic of the Senedd then, just last week they held a debate on international spending and fair trade came up several times. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that debate, any sort of key points that came out of it that you think should be reshared on this podcast or people should know about, or any sort of interventions.
It was great to hear awareness and so many of the MSs picking up on fair trade, picking up on Wales being the world's first fair trade nation in 2008. This is really important to us because it's really showing that collective ongoing commitment towards fair trade and supporting global fairness. It means a lot not only to us but obviously to all of our communities, the schools, everybody involved, businesses. And going forward, we just really hope to see that continued solidarity within the Senedd and ongoing awareness.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think a lot of people often look at these debates going on in the Senedd or maybe in Westminster and don't realise the power they actually have. You know, if you get in touch with your member of the Senedd or member of Parliament and tell them that you want them to support the principles of fair trade and global solidarity, that can have a really big knock-on effect then when they have these debates and these moments of decision and voting. And so sort of staying in the political world and sort of to close as well, I wanted to maybe look ahead. We've got a new government here in Wales. We don't really know exactly what their plans are yet. The programme for government still hasn't been published. I was wondering what you would like to see from them in terms of fair trade and global responsibility.
It would be fantastic to see that continued ongoing support for fair trade and for Fair Trade Wales, that we can continue to offer support to our communities and keep fair trade within school curriculums and keep that awareness. I've met so many young people who are already aware of fair trade because they've been able to focus on it during their curriculum in school. So it's really positive to see people's interest and just to have that continued support.
In terms of trying to sustain and grow that support, how could someone who's interested in this and wants to get involved, what can they do? How can they get involved with Fair Trade Wales or the wider fair trade movement?
They can, communities across Wales are able to get involved with fair trade in many different ways. The Fair Trade Foundation have a fair trade award system, so places of worship, schools, different community groups can get a certification that allows them to show their commitment towards fair trade. In terms of wider picture, I would encourage listeners to actively look for the fair trade mark when they're shopping. It might be something that you miss. It might be something that is already in your cupboards and you didn't even notice. So I think this is just a really small step in that continued support. It's one very simple way to continue to support fair trade practices. And also just general spreading awareness of the fair trade message within Wales and encouraging others to shop fair trade where they can, as well as signing the Fair Trade Foundation's petition, which is still live on their website.
Great, thank you, Millie. Diolch fawr iawn.
Diolch, thank you.
And that's it from Wales, Africa and the world. Thank you very much to Millie and Ore for joining me. Thank you very much for listening. Hwyl fawr.